Narcissists are vindictive people. They will seek to get even with anyone they believe has done them wrong. And not only do they want to get even, they're going to seek to cause more harm than the harm that has been done to them, or what they perceive has been done to them. They want to one-up the individual or individuals who, in their eyes, did them wrong. No one harbors a grudge like a narcissist. They carry resentment around like luggage. And once they feel wronged by someone, they're going to want to get back at them. And not just once, but every chance they get. They want the harm they inflict to be 100 times greater than the harm that they feel that they've endured. My narc ex-husband used to tell me he wasn't a vindictive person, that he didn't believe in tit for tat. And I can't even count how many times he said that. And this is one of the biggest lies he ever told me, because he turned out to be the most vindictive person I've ever met in my life. I posted a video a while back about a narcissistic rage that includes a short clip of my ex-husband screaming obscenities at my daughter. Now I'll drop that link to that video in the description box. So the ex-narcissist has tried to justify this behavior that's seen in the video by saying it was taken out of context, that he was provoked, and his story about why he did it has changed several times. He's told people around him that he was yelling because my daughter's boyfriend was doing drugs in the house, most specifically doing meth. He was doing meth in our home. That evolved into my daughter and her boyfriend were doing meth at our home. Right. Okay. And then that evolved even more. And the latest thing I heard was that my daughter's boyfriend was selling meth out of our home. Of course, he doesn't mention that my daughter's boyfriend was not even there when he was raging at my daughter, and that he hadn't been there at our home for over a year and a half. And the one time he visited with my daughter, 18 months prior to the screaming rage he went on, he was in our home less than a week. He'd never even been to the state of Oregon before. That's where we lived. So who's he even going to know to sell drugs to or to sell meth to? Who does he even know? I mean, when you think about it, his story really makes no sense. And on a side note, this is an example of how ignorant the narcissist enablers are, the flying monkeys, because they lack the ability to discern. Their thinking is just as illogical as the narcissist, because they are blindly accepting the narc's narrative of events. So anyway, the ex-narc has made up this insane story about why he was screaming. And all the while, I'm sitting here looking at the text message from him that he sent me stating that he screamed at my daughter to get back at me. Yeah. So why do you want to get back at me? Well, because I did something he never did, that he was incapable of doing. And that was, I stood up for my stepson, for his son. My stepson was dating a girl who was playing him, and she was lying to him. I called her out. I confronted her on that. No yelling, no screaming. I simply called her out on her crap. So my husband had to one-up me by going after my daughter. My big perceived crime of daring to confront this girl had to be one-upped by my husband, and he did so by screaming at my daughter. It was more about hurting me than it was about hurting my daughter. Remember, the narcissist is going to use whatever they can to hurt you. Most of you that are parents, you already know that seeing your child hurt is far more worse than being hurt yourself. Because when it comes to seeking revenge, no low is too low for the narcissist. If they can hurt you, that's all that matters to them. Anyone else who might get hurt along the way is just collateral damage. Think about your relationship with the narcissist. Have you ever really known them to forgive and forget? How many times have you had your past thrown in your face? How many times have you confronted them on something that they just did, and they come back with something like, well, what about what you did 6 months ago or 6 years ago? They expect you to forgive and forget. They expect you to not bring up something wrong that they did in the past. But your crimes, or your perceived crimes, will be locked and stored in their memory bank where they hold on to it forever. And it will be thrown in your face over and over again. The narcissist has a faulty scorecard. They keep track of all of your flaws, whether real or imagined, and conveniently, they forget their own. My ex-narc used to share his revenge fantasies with me, all the ways he wanted to get back at his exes. Now, this was a big red flag warning that at the time I chose to ignore, because I thought he'd never want to get back at me. If someone is telling you that they're plotting revenge on their past partners, it's a guarantee that one day they will be plotting revenge on you. If they're carrying grudges against others and they've been doing it for years, you can trust and believe they will harbor grudges against you. Relationships with narcissists are actually competitions. The narcissist needs to win, to feel like they won. So during the relationship, they win by manipulating and exerting control over you. After the relationship ends, they win by controlling how others think of you. Narcissists are emotionally stunted individuals. They have not matured emotionally since childhood. This is why they react like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum when they're triggered. They're like a 3-year-old in an adult body. When I left my husband and had him served with divorce papers, I knew better than to be around him when he received that. I knew his temper. I knew he'd come at me with both barrels, and I knew it would be worse than anything I'd experienced with him before. So I did it from a distance. So since I wasn't there to be his verbal punching bag, he destroyed everything of mine he could think of in order to inflict the most harm upon me. He knew how important my children were to me, so he destroyed my portraits of them. He knew how much I loved and missed my father, so he destroyed his urn and his ashes. And there's going to be an upcoming video on that. If you've ever been involved in a legal battle with a narcissist, just know you're going to be painted as the vindictive one who's stirring things up. You seeking retribution for something they've done is going to be seen by the narcissist as an attack on them. My ex-narc blames me for the legal issues he's dealing with right now, when the only reason he has these issues is because of his actions. If he hadn't destroyed my belongings, there'd be no court case. But of course, to the narcissist, nothing is ever their fault, and anything they did do was because of something you did to them. So in my narc's mind, he sees it like this: I left him, therefore I did something horrible to him. So he destroyed my belongings, which was justified because I'm a terrible person for leaving him. See how their logic works? Yeah, just like that. Anyone who displays vindictive behavior towards other people, anyone who speaks to you about getting back at others, is going to do the same thing to you one day. Anyone who carries resentment and harbors grudges, who speaks in a hateful way about other people, they're not a healthy person. They are not a compassionate person, and they are not loving. If your heart is consumed with revenge, how can there be any room in there for love? Think about it. If you find yourself around someone who delights in the misfortune of others, who believes others deserve to be punished, who purposely tries to inflict harm on other people, they are not healthy. These are volatile and emotionally unstable individuals, and one day their wrath will be directed at you, unless you get out first. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I appreciate you all, and may your day be blessed.